Hey everyone, I'm the Tailorette, and today I'm going to talk to you about body types and sewing. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I have not taken an official class on this. However, I have made over 600 dresses for 400 different people in my short lifetime. And when you make that many dresses for that many different people, you start to see patterns and how outfits are supposed to fit and how to resolve those issues. So let's sit down for a minute. All right, let's get straight to the point here. Okay, there are 4 different body types that I have observed, and I actually looked it up online, and it actually is a legitimate set of 4 basic body types. Now, there are many different people who vary between these different body types because we're all unique. That's what makes us so special, each individual person. Number 1 body type is pear shape, which ends up being more like a triangle. Ends up being like a triangle. This is the bust, and this is your hips. Your hips are the widest part of your body. Your bust is very small. You could actually be a size 2 in your bust, but in your hips, you might be a size 8 or even a 10, or you could be a 6. It's just bigger. Your hips are bigger. Doesn't mean you're overweight. It just means your hips are bigger in comparison to your bust. And whenever you gain weight, that's where all the fat goes to, is your hips. So based on your body type, you have different larger parts of your body, and that is where the weight starts showing. That is actually my body type. I am very small chested, but my hips are the bane of my existence. And that also includes my legs. I've always been very self-conscious about my legs because my legs are just thicker in proportion to my arms, say. I could gain 30 pounds and still wear the same top and be okay. But that does not mean for my pants, I could grow 4 sizes bigger and still be able to fit in a small top. However, that small type top might start getting a little bit tighter, but it takes a lot longer for the weight to go up here than it does down here. And some of the issues you might run into is, especially during the skinny jeans era, ouch, that was a tough time for us pear people because skinny jeans hug the legs, and that really emphasizes that that is the largest part of our body. It hugs the hip and the legs. And you might have found that during that time when you were wearing skinny jeans, or if you still wear skinny jeans, you'll find that the waist was just huge. You probably could have taken it in 4 inches total, maybe 2, depending on what type of triangle you are. But then you would find that the hips were super tight, the legs were tight, the calves were tight, everything was just super tight down below. But lo and behold, you don't have a waist problem, which is pretty much what I had. So when wide legs came in, super happy because it hid all of the extra thickness in my legs and emphasized the high waist, small waist. At least for me, I found that looks awesome on my body type. You are sewing for a pear shape or a triangle shape. You will have to emphasize that whenever you try a pattern, your waist is typically always going to have to be taken in. How I size dresses for myself is, say if I'm making a pencil dress or something that's a little bit more fitted, I basically pick the size of my hips and I'll make that size of my hips, and then I'll scale down the upper part of my bust area and just take in all that bust. Number 2 body type is an apple, or otherwise known as an upside down triangle. So the reverse of what my body type is. So here we have it. We have our bust is the widest part, and our waist area tends to be the wider part as well. And our hips and legs tend to be the smallest part of our body. Not our body, somebody's body. I don't have an apple shape, I'm paired. All of my customers that have an apple shaped body have complained about their waistline and their bust. However, they never have an issue with their legs. They're never self-conscious about wearing shorts or how short their skirts are or showing off their legs. It's always their waistline that they're talking about. Whereas me, I'm always talking about my legs and my hips because I have to be careful what kind of shorts I wear. Apples don't have to worry about shorts or how short their skirt is because their legs always look great. Apples are very hard on themselves with body image, and they really shouldn't because our society emphasizes a small waistline. Yeah, skinny legs, but the waistline is always the forefront of this should be small. Well, guess what? Apples, like I said before, you have really skinny legs and small hips. It's just your waist and your bust you have to work around, just like the triangles have to work with their hips. If you are an apple and your waistline does not fit within the parameters of what a size chart says you are, but you are actually at the right weight, don't start beating yourself up, because you are an apple and your waist will always be proportionally larger than your hips or your legs. I have seen so many women complain about their waist when they really shouldn't, because it's just that they have a different body type and their proportions are different. So for this one, I would do the reverse than what I would do for the pear shape or the triangle shape. I would choose the size that is in my bust. I would take the largest part of my body, which is my bust as an apple, and then I would scale it down in the hips and make it fit that way. If you're an apple, you could have thicker arms, or you do not have to have thicker arms. I've seen both. I've seen apples with thicker arms and really thin arms. If you are an apple, I would try and do anything to emphasize your legs, not necessarily wearing short skirts. That's not exactly what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is make sure you emphasize that that is the smallest part of your body. It's just like me emphasizing the smallest part of my waist, because my waist is the smallest part of my body. So I like to put all my obvious lines right where my waistline is and don't emphasize my legs or my hips. And that will make me look thinner. For you as an apple, I would say emphasize your legs. So maybe don't put some obvious big puffy skirt right at your waist if you're an apple. Even if you are like super duper skinny, it could still make you a little bit thicker than you are, because that is the thicker part of your waist. This is just universal for apples. With pears, it's different. I want to have the poofy skirt to hide all my leg under there. Whereas you have the thinner legs. Y'all can do shift dresses so well, where there's no waistline, it's just a box. And then it's like your legs is all that you see. I've seen apples really show off those dresses really well, because it doesn't emphasize waistline, but the only thing you're seeing is thin legs coming out from underneath. That works out super great for apples. So as an apple, you're probably going to be always taking in legs and hips and scrambling to find enough room to fit your bust and your waist. That's probably your problem. Just like me always trying to find room for my hips. And let me tell you this, you are not a rotten apple because you have a wider waistline, okay? Number 3 is the rectangle. Rectangle, where your bust, your hips, and your legs are all proportionally aligned. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily don't have any insecurities, because that could mean that you gain weight in certain areas all at the same time, and everything ends up being insecure at the same time. However, you are proportionally even. You might have your insecurities about certain parts of your body, but you are generally proportionally even, and you are the one that can buy a 2-piece bathing suit in one size and fit in the bottom and the top piece at the same time and not have to buy 2 different sizes. Issues you might run into being a rectangle is that maybe you don't have enough shape. And so if you're wanting to wear a dress that emphasizes curves, you might have to be a little bit more creative in finding a dress that emphasizes your curves, because you're straight. Honestly, I've never had a rectangle complain to me about their body unless they were overweight. So honestly, I'm not saying it's the most ideal. It's just when they go to buy clothes, they fit in a lot of things. Unless they're buying a dress that's curvy, like curvy jeans. When you see online, they have an option to buy curvy jeans. They probably wouldn't necessarily fit in that. The hips might be a little bit too big. So they do run into some issues because they're somewhere in between. Now, body type number 4. This is the Hourglass. A lot of people have heard about this because this is just kind of the body type that if you're trying to accentuate curves in a woman would desire to have an hourglass body shape. However, hourglasses do have their struggles because they have a lot of similar issues somewhere in between triangle and upside down triangle. They have both, but yeah, depending on what they're buying. If they're buying a dress, they might have an issue with finding a dress that has a small enough waist. I think they will always struggle with having to find a small enough waist because their waist is literally the smallest part of their body. So they are going to be the type that feels like they're standing in a cup when they're trying on a pair of jeans. That's just like triangle. Triangle, like me, I feel like I'm always standing in a cup when I'm trying on jeans. Hourglass is going to feel the same way because their hips are wider than their waist, but their bust is also wider than their waist. So they actually might have an issue with a baggier waist, not finding enough room for their bust. So what I would do for an hourglass is just find the size that fits the widest part, whether it's your hip or your bust, and then size down from there. So all that said, with the different body types, and like I mentioned, please comment below because I really want to hear from you guys about your body types. And you don't have to be super descriptive if you're not comfortable with that, but I don't mind talking about my body problems. I'm fine with sharing that with you on here. One thing you have to understand is that patterns and clothes that you buy from the store, they're all made from a pattern block that is designed for specific body type. There's no one universal pattern that everyone is drawing from that is supposed to fit everybody. And I think that's the assumption that everybody has when they approach a sewing pattern. They think this is supposed to fit everybody and this was somehow specially made so that this can universally fit every body type and I don't have to worry about fitting because it says on the pattern that it's supposed to fit. Well, the problem is there's a lot of pattern designers that make things according to a certain body type. Understandably, because there's no such thing as making clothes or patterns that fit everybody. But you have to find the brands and designers that fit your body type. This is why I stopped sewing with patterns, because I really got tired of trying to constantly alter patterns, and the person that it was designed on just will never fit your body type perfectly. It is very rare that you can find something that fits you exactly. I mean, it's gonna be like that one pattern that you just wanna make over and over and over and over and over again, right? Tell me out there, there's some of you out there that have had that experience where this pattern just works for you and you just love to make it all the time because it fits. This is why I have an adjustable mannequin. Now, there's a lot of people out there who would poo-poo it and say that's not professional. We should actually have a mannequin that's your fixed size. The problem is it's hard to find a fixed size that fits all these different shapes and sizes like I just talked to you about. So I buy an adjustable mannequin. You'll have to see the link below on the mannequin that I use. And honestly, it has been super foolproof as far as fitting for my customers. It has been a serious lifesaver. Now, if you understand some of the things that you can run into with an adjustable mannequin and where the measurements could go off, you just keep those in mind every time you're sewing and you never have an issue. Like literally the only problem that I've ever had with my adjustable mannequin is that the underbust isn't as small because like we women, we have we're cut off here, right? We have our fullest part and then all of a sudden it's smaller. Whereas the adjustable mannequin doesn't have that. It's more of like a smooth transition, making the underbust a little bit thicker. So if you just have that in mind, like when I'm making dresses, I make a lot of Regency dresses. See link below on the dresses that I make. It very emphasizes the empire waistline. And so I just take that into account when I'm making a dress. And I have had like 99% success with fitting with my customers on this dress form. So hit that link below if you want to use that, because I do that when I make my own clothes. I could not make my own clothes without this thing. The only thing is it doesn't have legs. It would be nice to have a mannequin with full legs on it, because if I wanted to make pants or something, it can be a little bit tricky. I have to try that on myself, which isn't too bad. It's just, it's always nice to be on something else, working on it on some other body other than mine. I don't want to be like, you know, getting a stiff neck or a stiff back because I'm bending over trying to fit the pants. You get the picture, right? You'll figure out once you start understanding your body type and the certain things that you need to take in, you'll figure out a rhythm that once you get a pattern out, I'm gonna use that same trick that I used last time to take in the waist or let out the bust or whatever. You're gonna use that same trick over and over again. It's become second nature for you and you don't have to worry about it. So all of these mysterious problems that you've been having when you're sewing, or you get frustrated at certain patterns, this is the answer most likely to your problems. Either that or somebody is completely messed up in fitting in general and they made it to not even fit a human body. That happens too. Sometimes that can help you understand. Like every time I design patterns for myself, I design it according to my body type. So if you were to buy a pattern off of me, most likely you're gonna have a waist issue if you're an apple. You probably would have a waist issue with me if you were a rectangle as well, because your waist is the same size as your hips. But doesn't mean you shouldn't necessarily buy a pattern for me. You just need to learn how to alter those parts of your body to fit the garment. These were things that I was not taught when I first started to sew, and honestly there was nowhere for me to find it because I was a teenager and I didn't have access to the internet when I was that young, and it drove me nuts whenever I made a pattern. I was just like, scrap that pattern, it doesn't work, it's a bad pattern. Well, it doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad pattern, it's just made for a different body type. Could be a bad pattern, but it also could be made for a different body type too. And a note to all the women out there, we are very super hard on our bodies. And I will have to say, just because you have certain parts of your body that are a little bit larger does not necessarily mean that you're overweight. We could be overweight at certain points in our lives, but don't be so hard on yourself because one part of your body didn't match so-and-so's body part over there, because so-and-so is probably an apple and you're a pear, or you're a whatever, vice versa. You probably are swapping and you're saying, I don't fit in her pants and that makes me feel insecure. Well, I was constantly beating myself up because my hips were just too wide in my opinion. And I thought I was overweight because I had thicker legs, and I was always trying to adjust that to fit into an apple type position where the legs are really thin and the hips are really thin. And I would see people who had baggy hips on their pants and I'd be like, why do I never have that problem? I must need to lose more weight. No, that doesn't mean that. This is just the way it is. And the great thing is I hardly ever have a waist problem. Hardly ever. And I hardly ever have a bust problem. So I'm going to take my wins there. So whatever body type you are, take your wins. And don't overemphasize the largest part of your body. Really be gracious with yourself, because I've had people come into my sewing studio and they look super fit and they are complaining about a certain part of their body. And that is why you see athletes, super fit people complaining about their body, because everyone does have a certain part of their body that drives them nuts, and it's real. But we all just need to sit back and just relax for a minute, because we're all made differently, and that's okay. That's the beauty of it. You also could be, I didn't touch on this, but you could be a combo of all these different body types. And that is what makes us super unique and special, is that we all have different body types and we can create different things for different people. You might be an hourglass, but you actually find that you have elements of a different body type that makes you be able to wear something else really well. And so some of these rules that you're listening to me goes, now that doesn't work. No, she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's like, well, I probably don't know what I'm talking about for your body type, because I don't have your body type, and your body type is unique and different. All the different people in this world, they all have different shapes and sizes. And there's so many different possibilities of the type of dresses you can create or outfits you can create for anybody, which I love about creating. I love it when women come into my sewing room to have a wedding dress altered or a wedding dress made. They have an issue with a fitting on their dress, and maybe someone from an alteration shop didn't know what they were doing and they felt like they were a hopeless mess. But then I was able to come in and say, you know what? You have this type of body type. That's why it doesn't fit here. Let me fix your problem, because I deal with this all the time and you are not an impossible person. So maybe I'm missing something, a part of this. If I am, comment below. I would love to hear what y'all have to say. I am not claiming to be an expert at everybody's body type. And as you can tell in talking in this video, I know a lot about the triangle and the pear, because I am a triangle and a pear. And I've had a lot of friends and customers who have been apples. So I am very familiar with those two different body types. So if you like this video, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and I will see you next time in one of the videos that will help you conquer sewing.